Hello everyone, this is Anomaly from the $5 Journey YouTube channel. Thank you so much for taking a watch at my video. Also be sure to check me out on Facebook, Twitter. You can chat with me on Outlook if you want to. Anomaly1977 at outlook.com. The $5 Journey Facebook page, you guys know that. Also, Anomaly 197711, that's my Twitter account. Okay, so you guys check me out there. Hopefully you've all been able to gain something from at least some of the videos that I've been showing. Today I really just wanted to talk I want to talk about three things to assure your financial success. Okay, three things that will assure your financial success. Okay, and basically, those things are probably stuff that you've heard before, but I just wanted to put my own spin on it. My name is John Robinson, of course, but I go by Anomaly because I feel that in order to separate ourselves from the masses and to get ahead financially, right? To not be lumped into that group of people that are gonna continue to do everything the same way. They're gonna continue to live paycheck to paycheck, not even. They're gonna continue to have a whole lot of week left over at the end of their pay, right? Who are gonna continue to be in debt, who are gonna continue to not be able to progress financially, okay? In order to be part of that subset of, to be pulled out, to be set apart from that, I feel like we are anomalies, all right? Because what's supposed to happen, right? This is what they tell you. Well, you go to school, you get good grades, and then you get a good job, and then you work until you are, 10 years from the time that you're about to die. And then you have to rely on the government and whatever money you did not save, and then you have to go into debt. And so that way you can, when you on the day of your death, you can make sure that the thing that you leave with your family is a whole lot of wonderful memories of how hard you worked and a whole lot of debt. Okay, so in order to be not a part of that, right? There are certain things that I feel that we need to put in place into our lives so that we're set apart, so that we are the anomalies, right? So we are not a part of that group, right? So that you are the one who's going to leave a legacy of more than just debt and good memories for your family. You're going to leave a legacy where your family is going to know more about finances. They're going to know more about wealth building. They're going to know more about seeing the fun aspects of you, right? Where as opposed to you having to work all the time, work just to make ends meet. All right, so we're gonna cut through all that. I wanted so in order to do that, in order to financially progress, I wanted to just talk briefly about three things that I feel are really, really important things. Three things. Okay, the first thing is make a budget for yourself. Okay, I know I don't talk about it too much in the book, the $5 Journey, but that's in the next set of books and workbooks, we're gonna go into that a little bit more. Make a budget for yourself. Okay, figure out what's coming in and what's going out. I mean, it's really, really simple. You can grab just a blank piece of paper, and in one column you write what's coming in, and on the other column you write what's going out. You add up both sides, and then you get the difference between. All right, some of you may find out, hey, more is going out than is coming in. This is why I may have $10,000, $20,000 in bad credit card debt, right? When I say bad debt, I mean debt that is not gaining you any sort of money, or not adding financial value to you, right? So what do I mean by that? Here's an example: bad debt versus good debt. If I was to go buy a car for $20,000 and I have to pay interest on the car loan that I need, right? And I'm basically just using that car to drive around the family and to go from here to there, right? So I have those payments every month with the interest on top, so I'm paying down principal and interest, right? And then when I go to sell that car, it's only worth half the value, or maybe even less, maybe only worth 25% of the value as when I bought it, right? That's considered bad debt, right? Because I'm paying all that money into something that is not growing but is really decreasing in value. As opposed to good debt, let's say I take, that was $20,000 that we gave the example before. Let's say I take $50,000 and I throw it into some real estate and I become into debt. I don't know, I take out a loan for $50,000 for real estate. That becomes debt. But off of that $50,000 debt, I'm making, $500 a month. Okay? Over the course of however many years. And then when I go to sell that real estate, right, I, instead of selling it for $50,000, I'm able to sell it for $150,000, right? So that has become good debt because it is adding value to my financial portfolio. Okay, so when you do your budgeting, right, when you're looking at your income, when you're looking at your expenses, you want to evaluate what that gap is. All right, is that a gap that puts you in the red? That means that every month you are losing money. Is that a gap that puts you in the green, meaning that every month there should be some money left over? All right, so you have to evaluate that, and then then we have to go from there. If there is a situation where you're in the red every month, which a lot of times most Americans that's what the case is, then we're gonna have to figure out how we can make some changes. Now, the $5 Journey has a whole lot of suggestions, a whole lot of strategies on what can be done to make those changes. Okay, so that's all laid out in the $5 Journey book. That's all, of course, on the YouTube channel. You guys keep tuning in, look at the Facebook. So there's plenty of ideas. There's tons of ideas in there how that can actually happen, right? Now, so you want to make a budget. Now, the second thing you want to do is you want to start a business. Okay, start a business. It is not difficult at all. I mean, if you have an idea of what you may want to do and you have the name, I'm telling you that's probably about 90% of the battle right there. All right, the next thing is just coming up with the $120 to $160 to get your business legally incorporated in the state and also with the federal government, right? But something like that can happen within 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so you want to make sure that that's the case, that you start a business. The reason I say that is because there are a lot of tax advantages to having a business. You can, and I explained this in another video, that you can actually write off a lot of your expenses, your business expenses. And so really what it is you get taxed after the expenses. So in other words, if you make $100,000 as John the employee, right, you get taxed based off of the $100,000 that you make as John the employee. If you make $100,000 as John LLC, right, then John LLC has expenses. John LLC needs to buy a vehicle to get around. John LLC needs to have a form of communication, maybe a cell phone. John LLC needs to have Wi-Fi service and some other stuff going on. So maybe John LLC makes $100,000 but has to spend $30,000. So then that means that John LLC will only be taxed on the $70,000 left over, as opposed to John the individual will be taxed on the $100,000, and then after that has to take whatever's left to use to pay for whatever the expenses are. All right, so John the individual is taxed at a much higher rate than John the LLC. Okay, so that's what you want to do. You want to part of financial growth, financial progress, financial building, wealth building, whatever you want to call it, is not only bringing in extra money, but it is also capital preservation. Okay, so you are preserving what comes in, because, you know, trust me, I know tons of people, right? They make a lot of money, you know, $400,000, $500,000 a year. I'm calling that a lot of money. $600,000 a year. I know one person who's making over $750,000 a year, right? But they have, you know, close to that in expenses. You know, they have over $700,000 a year in actual expenses, and that comes, you know, with bad debt. That comes with a lot of other things. You know, it's great to buy the, you know, the fancy cars and the big houses, but you have to have a form of income coming in, a revenue stream coming in that pays for those kinds of things. You know, if you just have your job, you know, and that's your only means of income, paying for that, that means that, you know, now you're, from your only source of income, your money is flowing out. Money is flowing out every month. There's nothing that is being built, that is being added on. You're just accumulating all this bad debt, and you're not adding on any revenue streams. And then on top of that, you know, if there's no capital preservation there, right, through business ownership, through annuities, through, you know, some other things that you can do, then you'll end up losing in the long run. Okay, so that's the second thing. So business ownership. So budget, business ownership, start a business. Okay, if you have any questions about that, hit me up. You can leave, you know, whether it's in the comments below, or whether it is, you know, contacting me on Twitter or on Outlook or whatever, Facebook, however you want to do it. Okay, so the third and last thing is get ready to change the company that you're around, you know, the people that you're around. So I was reading a couple of books, and also listening to a couple of experts on psychology, sociology, that kind of thing. And the common belief, and I also believe this based off of my own life, what I've seen, you know, being lived out in my life and other people's lives, they say that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most amount of time around. So if you spend, you know, the 5 people that you're spending most of your time around, if they're all, you know, really good dancers, you know, let's just say, I don't know, I'm pulling that out of the air. If they're really good dancers, most likely you are going to, if you were not a really good dancer before, you are most likely going to develop some sort of interest in dance, or become some sort of really good dancer because of that. If you are, you know, if you're spending time around people who, you know, they have a profound knowledge of science. So for instance, like, I was in this, when I was in undergraduate, I was in this program at Rutgers called Biomedical Careers Program. Wonderful program, BCP, Biomedical Careers Program. And you know, it was like a summer program, and you had to apply to get in and all this other stuff. It was wonderful. We did internships. And it was for people who wanted to go into the medical career, whether it be medicine itself as a doctor, or dentistry, or you wanted to go into psychology, or you wanted to go into neurobiology. You wanted to go into research, right? Oncology, hematology, immunology, any of those kinds of things. So all those people came together, all those students, right? And the coursework was rigorous. You know, it was a little tough. The classes were all day long, right? So they were 8 hours. We had to, you know, most of the days we had classes, but on some days we had to do our interning. You know, we formed a study group, because we said, hey, listen, we need to find a way to get really good grades on this, right? So we formed a study group, and it was probably about maybe 5 or 6 of us, and it was probably about 5 or 6 of us, I think, maybe 7. We formed that study group, And you know what? We constantly, we were quizzing each other. We had, we would have our sessions, our study group sessions, and we would see each other passing from classes, and we would say, hey, what's reverse peristalsis? What is it when you have, I don't know, a B cell deficiency? What are those? Some of those are immunology kind of terms and things like that. And I know a lot of you guys aren't into sciences. I really love the sciences, but my point in saying this is, we would see each other and we would sharpen each other. Right? We would have these groups together and we would really sharpen each other. We were becoming better and better students of the sciences, and I mean, all of us, all 7 of us, we all finished with A's. We were the top in the class that particular year because of the time that we were putting in, right? And so while I gave examples of, positive things that could be done when you're around positive kind of people, here's some examples of some negative people. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. People who, they start off really like on a really good track, but, they hung around friends, who were bums. I mean, I don't know if I could say that really, but I just said it, so I don't know, sue me. So they were bums. There were people who weren't going anyplace in life. There were people who, they were always in trouble. And I saw it in middle school. I saw it in high school. I even saw it in college. And they were, and they would, acquiesce to these kinds of groups. And what I noticed was they started slipping. They started falling. They started, even though they had like a positive mindset, and they had all these bright plans for their future and different things like that. They got into these groups and they thought that they can change the mindset of the group. And really what happened was, because of those 5 or 6 or 7 individuals that they were around, instead of that one person changing the mindset of those 5, 6, 7 individuals, the 5, 6, 7 individuals changed the mindset of that one person. And so they started becoming like that. So I know plenty of people, they started off, really well in middle school. And then, they started hanging around the people, they became just like them, life fell apart, all that kind of stuff. Same thing I noticed in high school. They started becoming you'd have the drinkers in high school who, they felt that at an early age, they need to start consuming large quantities of alcohol. And, they would, you'd have a person who wasn't doing that and they started hanging out with them. And, before long, they started doing the same exact thing. And then they started getting suspended from school or getting in trouble, like as far as like the law, because they were drinking and, while being intoxicated or whatever, or doing crazy stuff. I know a few people who were, who also, they got into that group and, because of some of the poor choices that you tend to make when you have overconsumed in alcohol, they were taken advantage of sexually, and I'm not trying to say that, it was, that, they're necessarily all their fault or anything like that. Because, as a person seeing that somebody is in that kind of state, you need to make the moral conscious choice to say, okay, well, even though I'm attracted to the person, or, whatever the case is, the person is not in a state where it's necessarily safe, so I need to, maybe help the person out to get them, maybe their friends who they came with and stuff like that, but so it's not completely, their fault, but my point in saying all that is that they never would have been in that situation had they decided to be the anomaly, had they decided to stand apart from that group instead of blending into that group, that group of stoners, the group of alcoholics, the group of people who kind of blew off their grades or blew off school, or didn't really care whether they participated in illegal activities, right? That's another one. Or people who didn't necessarily care about their future. That's another one. Because over time you will start to become that person who doesn't care about their future, or who doesn't care about their grades, or who doesn't care about their finances. So you want to make sure that, of course, number one, that you do get a budget. You need to track that. You need to track that to figure out where you're at with your finances. Okay, is there money left over at the end of the month, or is there some sort of deficit that needs to be made up every single month? So you need to do that. You need to get business ownership. Start up a business. All right. You have all these tax incentives, tax advantages. Also at the end of the day, with the profit that you receive from your business, it's your profit. So you're in charge of how much you actually take in and how much you take home, as opposed to working for someone. You're given a salary or an hourly rate, and that's pretty much it. Maybe you get a bonus every now and again. Maybe they have contests at your job where you can earn a $50 gift certificate to, I don't know, wherever. But for the most part, that is not the case. A lot of Americans, you have about 50% of Americans at this point who are making $30,000-$40,000 or less every year. You have 63% of Americans at the time that you're watching this video, 63% of Americans as of February 2018, who they cannot handle a $1,000 emergency. Okay, so $1,000 emergency would completely wipe them out. You have the latest statistic from AARP from the summer of 2017, which basically says that in order for somebody to retire who is making an income of $40,000 a year, they need at least $1.18 million in retirement. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to make it. Okay, so you have all these kinds of things, going on. When you have a business, you have more control over your finances. Okay, you have more control over your finances. All right, and the last thing is to get ready to cut some people out of your life. Get ready to cut some people out of your life. I know that we don't like change. We like to have the safety net that comes with consistency of people, consistency of relationships, consistency of lifestyles, even though those people, relationships, and lifestyle are counterintuitive, are counterproductive, right? We still like to keep those because we don't like to be in a situation where we are uncomfortable, right? But again, remember, the $5 journey is about it is about wealth building, but it is also about a change in mindset, where you are versus the journey of where you want to end up. Okay. And in order to do that, you may have to cut some stragglers off. Now, I'm not saying to be a total jerk about things. I'm not saying that if someone doesn't have a problem, that you're not a compassionate ear for them or a merciful ear. But I am saying that as far as, looking at where you want to go to, and the amount of time that you invest and spend into people who are where you are trying to leave from, has to be evaluated. And if they're not willing to come down off of that mountain with you, right, and go into the promised land of financial progress and wealth building, then those people, you may need to leave them back on the mountain until they're ready to come. That may be what you need to do. Now, that may, am I talking to married couples? Absolutely. Now, I'm not saying anything about divorce, but I am saying as far as your own financial journey, your own financial progress, because at the end of the day, if you're a wife or if you're a husband, you're doing things not only for your benefit, but also for the benefit of your entire family. Right. So you need to be that one. Sometimes, unfortunately, it can't always be a couple moving forward financially together. For whatever reason, sometimes there's pushback with that. So you need to be that person to say, hey, listen, I need to, we need to set up a 529 college account for the kids. We need to talk about this whole life insurance policy, get some annuity, some annuity kind of stuff set up. We need to talk about 401k or 403b or an IRA or a SEP IRA or something like that, or a retirement account. You need to be the one to talk about the getting involved in mutual funds or stock or some form of passive a passive stream of income. You may need to be the one to do that. Okay, so if you are coupled to people, and not just spouse, but maybe as a girlfriend or boyfriend, maybe it's your friends who you hang out with, maybe it's I don't know, maybe it's your coworkers or whatever, and you're spending a lot of time with them and they're stuck in one place, right? But you're trying to get to another place. Again, not to be a jerk. You don't want to be a jerk to them, but you have to go about making the moves that you need to make, okay? So for the benefit of not only you, but also the people who, you were or are affiliated with, right? Because once you get to a certain point, then you can go and help them if they're in a position to receive help. Not everybody's in that position. And when I say position, I'm talking about, again, mindset, the mental position to say, okay, you know what, this is something, let me receive, help from Susie, about this. I know I used to ridicule her when she was going to those classes about the stock market, or she was in graduate school, or I used to ridicule Will when he was when he would talk, anytime he would talk about financial progress or this wonderful book, The $5 Journey. But it seems like Will has really taken a lot of good steps, and I wouldn't mind asking him about some things. So in that kind of case, a person's ready. You can go back and you can share your knowledge. You can help them out start a business, show them your journey, your own $5 journey, right? And I think that's pretty much about it. I know that last point is really tough, and there's really no necessarily easy way to kind of break those ties and to move forward. But you have to do what you got to do to help yourself and to also help those who are the least represented, those who might be hanging on you. If you have children, if you have loved ones, they may really need it, but they don't necessarily know that they needed it, right? Like when I was a kid, and my parents were telling me to eat vegetables or whatever, I would have preferred to eat ice cream and apple pie and all that other stuff, because those are the things that I wanted, whereas the vegetables were the things that I needed, right? And so my point is that, it may be along those kinds of lines that, it may not be necessarily something that you want, but is something that your family needs, is something that your loved ones need, right? It's something that your friends need. So you need to go ahead and kind of leave the pack, do what you have to do, and then help them out later on, okay? So again, I hope you guys were able to get something from this, budgeting, starting a business, and remember, you are the average of the 5 people that you're around, all right? So you may need to cut some ties, all right, if you want to progress financially. Thanks so much. Make sure you leave the comments below, like the video if that's your thing, if you do like it, and check me out on the other social media sites, all right? Thanks.